All right, hello and welcome. How's everyone doing today? I'm not quite dead yet. I do apologize halfway, all the way halfway all the way. Just so, I got the audio stuff worked out. Now I just need to get the showing up on time stuff worked out, I think. Starting on time. Having things...
He thinks, but he's not sure.
I think because apparently when I set this up today, I wasn't paying attention, and I'm just like, oh yeah, publish is going to be set up for later, and it was set for 2:50. So I can't do a stream if everything's just perfect. I think hell would freeze over. The second law of thermodynamics would run in reverse. It would just be cats and dog living together under the same roof. Can't happen. However, that said, John is right, kind of. Kinda. A lot of kindas going on today, Matt. Yeah. The reason I didn't start on time was partially because I'm being an idiot about things that don't even matter. So I've set up this really fun interface for these bike rides that I'm going to start here soon as I turn up for the Hotter Than Hell 100, and do look forward to a video for that, because I am going to do a video about why I'm doing this and how I'm hoping you guys might be willing to help me out with this, and that's the reason I've spent so much time working on this interface, because I want it to be a fun thing. But one of the last things I have remaining here is calculating the distance I've gone, because that's going to come up. It's going to be important in a small way. And I have two kind of options, and both of them are equally fine. Makes no difference which one I choose. And yet I am definitely spending way too much time thinking about this. The first option is just a quick and dirty, take a look at how fast I'm going, and, just integrate that over time. And John, you're a math person. You do math tutoring. This is basic. It's like, just take the speed you're going, assume it's correct, because it's probably at least close to correct, because I'm using a GPS to calculate this. Just run with it. At least run with it if it's faster than a couple miles an hour. Because if I'm doing a couple miles an hour, then I'm probably just stopped anyway, and I don't need to worry about it. But if I'm doing 10 miles an hour, assume GPS is at least that close to correct. But no, I have to say, well, what if I took my latitude, longitude, and altitude and used that to do a three-dimensional coordinate plane and figure out what my distance traveled between any 2 points was? And it's not like the GPS is going to be that accurate. I mean, I'm only accurate in best case scenarios to 3 meters. So, I mean, I'm wasting way too much time on this. I should just say, go the easy math, because at least then you can be halfway accurate that you're getting good distances. Whereas there's rounding errors I'd have to worry about on my trigonometry stuff. And then I'd have to worry about, is my latitude and longitude even close to correct? Is my altitude close to correct? It's me being stupid. But it's the fine little details I really enjoy.
And Thomas is correct. This does not sound like SeaQuest.
Thomas is all the correct. But that's... Go on, John.
I was saying, yep, he's usually correct about these kind of things.
Oh, he's always correct. Thomas is always correct. But, like I said, John, you were only half correct. The other half of the reason why I started late was because I couldn't find my water bottle. I left it somewhere. And it turned out I left it in my son's room. I filled it up and brought it upstairs specifically so I'd have it ready for the stream tonight. And then I just walked off like a putz, and left it in his room. So I'm looking all over the house for it, and I finally look in his room, and it's on his dresser. I'm like, well, that was stupid. Which is the way I go.
Did you almost call Thomas John?
No.
You sure?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
I mean, I might have called Thomas Sue, knowing my record with names, but I wouldn't mix you and Thomas up. At least I don't think I would. And hey, Springtime, how are you doing? In fact, hey to everyone in the chat. Professor Brainy Specs, John DiMarco, of course, Thomas Potts, 47 Yorktown, and Springtime. How is everyone doing today? And Springtown is saying that Kuroga has fallen to the 10,000 strong army of cute puppies, aka the Love Puppy Army, and have given Bird of Prey 5 the love only 10,000 puppies can give, or the love of one Mamo Prey. That would be a lot of love either way, but I don't think that would stop the Kurogan army. Sounded like I said Jom. Yeah, I probably did. I probably did. That one I'll accept. Well, how about we get this thing going, since I am already, running things behind. So let me drop the link to the screening room and we'll get going here. Guys, the way this works is, as we say every week, this is going to take you to our screening room. It lets us sync up our watch time so that we can all see the same things at approximately the same time. If you're watching this right now, and only right now during the stream, you can see the video there. If you're watching this at some point in the future, or if you're just watching this at some point in the future, it won't be there. Instead, what you'll have to do is either go to Peacock TV, where you can sign up for an account for free, and you can watch all of SeaQuest as fast as you like, or you're going to have to go on Amazon or eBay or somewhere and buy physical copies. Either way, that's just how you're going to have to roll. If you don't want to do those two things, or you're watching right now and you can't open a second device, such as if you're at work and watching on your phone, don't worry, we got you more or less covered. We will be providing clips right down there of the episode as we go along. And other than that, we try to do our best to read comments. We try to do our best to tell you what's going on in it, but sometimes we, aka me, will get entirely derailed on some weird subject, and we may fall behind just a little bit, but hopefully it's not anything that you mind us falling behind on. So with that, let me go ahead and get this going. Hopefully you are there in the screening room, and if not, well, I don't know what to tell you. We've given you ample opportunity at this time, so hopefully you're ready to go. I will give us a quick 5-count countdown, and then we are going to kick this into gear. So here we go, everyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hitting the play and starting the clips, I hope. There we go.
Venus Levine Institute of Cryogenics.
We got some nice, mysterious music. What's going on in our cryogenics area? Which, man, if cryogenics ever did become a real thing, I don't know if I'd ever be okay with the idea of freezing myself until a cure was found. Like if I had some mortal disease like we see in Futurama and this episode, would I be willing to freeze myself for hundreds of years, perhaps? I don't know.
I don't think I'd go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell, because what if if my dad had the chance to freeze himself until they had found a cure for multiple myeloma, it would have been a tempting thing, but either way, it's like my children would still miss out on your presence. So it's kind of like you're not really gaining anything. But what we're seeing is that someone has been defrozen, thawed from cryogenics. And this administrative guy is really concerned. He pulls it up, but it's UEO classified, and he types in his password, and he's really concerned about the fact that this lady is apparently missing. So he says, well, open it up, open it quick. And so they open it up, and they find what looks to be like one of those Baywatch boogie boards that the lifeguards would always run down. You see David Hasselhoff holding on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it was this doctor here. This doctor is the one who freed her out of cryo sleep. And apparently it was something that was doctor-patient confidentiality. She had signed, or she had arranged beforehand for the doctor to de-thaw her. And, the doctor, he doesn't like the cryogenics. She's saying, you guys make a mockery of life. And the suit guy over here with the rimmed glasses or wireframe glasses is saying, well, you had no business doing this. Everything requires my signature. And he wants to know, where has the patient gone? But the doctor's saying, you know what? Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. You have no right to know. So the suit guy's like, okay, well, I appreciate you coming down here. And then just, gives him a quick karate chop to the back of the head. Knocking him out cold.
He just throws him in the cryopod.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Happy coincidence. And Commodore Ty, how you doing? Yes, I'm late. Like 6 hours late, as Thomas is saying. Yeah, and Springtime is saying Life with Matthew is really Rob Zombie in making a Monsters remake. That is hard R. I don't know where you get your information, Springtime. I suspect it may be inside the same sources. Place. Yeah, those same inside sources that Gary Beekler and Doomcock get, saying that she's so out of like anything to do with modern stuff. I can't even remember her name now. Kathleen Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Yeah, it must be the same source that they use to say Kathleen Kennedy has been ousted by Disney.
Yeah, for the 5th time this week.
Well, you always got to play your greatest hits,
Yeah. Our greatest hits are Darwin.
And Thomas is saying we should freeze Life with Matthew until we need him to stream, which should be, according to the schedule you made for me, almost every day, though I think you were kind enough to give me Sundays off. Thank you for that.
You're so generous.
So the boys are off at some sort of bar thing, and Lewis wants to get it looks like a Shirley Temple, a strawberry daiquiri maybe, with a virgin one. But, apparently they're out of strawberries, which Lewis finds completely incredulous. He's like, come on, we haven't been out of strawberries in a century. We grow them in a hydroponics bay. But the guy says all his strawberries are frozen down in the basement, so Lewis wants a beer, but he's not going to do it because he is underage. Instead, they find out that Jim Brody, he is off flirting it up with this girl for his birthday. Like they took him out for a drink and he completely ditched them. She's been here the past couple days, but Brody's the first person she showed any interest to. Other times she just sits in the corner and keeps to herself. And Thomas Potts is saying that Kathleen Kennedy has an arrest warrant for forcing herself on birds. I heard it in a live stream. Well, it's got to be true if you've heard it online.
Absolutely. There's some other shady character who is also watching Brody and his companion.
And she's giving him quite the sultry eyes, and he says, I'm sorry, I've been talking about myself all evening. I'm acting like a jerk. She goes, well, I asked. And he tries to ask about her, but she says, well, how about we dance instead? Kind of dodges the topic. And Ted's done. He's like, whatever. He's on his own. We're going to be kind of his AWOL if we don't get back to the SeaQuest soon. And Piccolo says, look, we don't have to catch a ride. I'm just going to take his keys. So he walks over. He takes the keys out of Jim's pocket and runs off. He's like, hey, I can't afford to be AWOL. And she goes, it's okay, James. he goes, well, actually, it's Jim. He goes, well, can I at least ask for a kiss out of you? And she gives him a very chaste peck on the cheek. Thomas Potts wants me to say David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff.
Oh, wow.
My wife and I have long joked about making a list of words that I say that sounds completely ridiculous to her. Lawyer is at the top of that list. She can't stand the way I say lawyer. And clothes. Clothes is a close second there. So apparently David Hasselhoff can be added to that list.
That's for sure.
And they come aboard, but they're late, and Ford is starting to give them a well-deserved dressing down for holding up the entire ship. But then he walks off, and he's like, well, just relax. Something came up, and we're not going to ship out till 600 hours. So James decides that he's going to run back out and try and pick up that girl again, even though she was playing not just hard to get, but impossible to get, as O'Neill points out.
But he likes the challenge. Like Matthew trying to pronounce things correctly.
And Springtime is saying that sadly he's not joking. There really is a Rob Zombie Monsters remake, and he put a link to it in Discord. Wow. Surely it's not hard R. Surely you're joking about that part. And Jim goes searching for her. He finds her, lonely on the dock. And, it's kind of honestly a little creepy. If a girl turned me down that hard, obviously, one, I would be in trouble since I'm married. But, potentially, assuming this was when I was single, if a girl had turned me down that hard and I searched the shoreline for her, I don't think it would be romantic when I found her. I think she'd be more creeped out. Even if I did have really good hair. He's claiming, it's not a conquest thing. I really am trying to make a connection with you. It's just like, well, can you at least tell me why I can't stop thinking about you? Which, kind of assuming she's a psychologist right there. But he's saying, come on, you're my first obsession. And she says, well, look, I can't do this to you. It's just, I can't bring you into my problems, which, if I kind of view that as a lame response whenever I hear that in life. If you're going to open up a little bit, you probably should at least open up all the way. Just be honest. Clearly you want to tell people your problems. Just tell them your problems because they're interested enough to ask. But thankfully, getting rejected makes him turn around and he sees the sniper up on the rooftop, the awning top, the walkway.
Something like that. Yeah, balcony or something.
He runs up. He really is, some good punches, but unfortunately his core is weak. One quick hit to his stomach and he was down. So Jim needs to go back and do some more sit-ups, it looks like. And Jim, he wants to know what's going on. Clearly this is the troubles you were worried about. And she goes, no, I actually have no idea what that was about. And he says, well, who are you? And she goes, it's me, Jim. My little man. It's me. And it's his mom, apparently. He has spent the evening hitting on his mom, trying to pick her up at a bar.
Oh, no, that's a rough birthday.
That is a rough birthday. And here we get, I think this is the third or fourth appearance of this admiral that we've seen over the course of these 2 seasons. So far we've learned in the first episode of this season that he potentially, when he was a POW, gave up vital information to avoid being tortured and beaten in a POW, which I wouldn't call that, like I'd call that understandable, except it seems like he immediately gave it up. Like he was more than willing to give up this information. And then he was also, it seems like someone who viewed laws as something for thee, not me, back in season 1. Mm-hmm. So this admiral, he's been a bit of a scumbag from the get-go. And he, again, has caused problems for SeaQuest in delaying them. And he's asking Bridger if there's some way that he might make it Bridger's fault, that he's the one who called for the delay, so that the admiral's not in trouble. And Bridger, he decides to be somewhat blackmailed at this point, and gets the funding that he needs for something in exchange for taking the blame for this. And Ford is initially also annoyed, but as soon as as soon as Bridger explains that it got him the funding, he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's get all this stuff. The more, the merrier." Which is fair. I mean, you got to play the game a little bit, and Bridger knows when to play the game and when to hold the line.
Let's just anybody be captain of SeaQuest after all.
He was the only one who could step in, as they pointed out in the very first episode. And I wouldn't be okay with this. Like, if I was a grown man and my mom was walking around in nothing but a bathrobe, I'd be uncomfortable. I'm like, Mom, could you put on something more? I don't feel like this is appropriate. But he's asking his mom, why didn't you tell me that you arranged all this with your doctor? Why didn't you tell me that you were going to come out of cryo freeze? And she goes, well, I didn't want anyone to try and talk me out of it. And I wanted to see the sort of man you grew into. Because apparently she has some disease that is 100% fatal. And the doctor said, pretty much if you unfreeze, it's going to be a death sentence. So, of course, she's been awake for 3 days and seems to be largely okay.
It's terminal at some point.
Apparently, Tampa Bay is in the semis. Are we talking hockey or baseball here? I'm not sure. I know it's baseball season, but I think it's the beginning of baseball season, isn't it? At least toward the beginning?
Yeah, it's kind of towards the middle of baseball, I think. I don't really follow sports, though.
Football? No.
He's messing with you.
I think it must be, because even I know it's not football season. Okay, thank you, Commodore Ty. Hockey.
And she's explaining that apparently she had Jim through artificial insemination. She just really wanted a child.
Which it was something I only saw because I paused it because I was curious about this wall of text they threw up at the very beginning when you find out that she's been brought out of cryosleep, and the suit guy types in his UEO password because something's classified. They throw up a wall of text about who was in the pod. And they talk about her spouse. Spouse signed. So I think this may have been a situation where her spouse was someone who couldn't, in any way, shape, form, or fashion, have gotten her pregnant. and Jim is trying to explain the situation to O'Neill here, and he goes, well, this girl who's on the dock, she's kind of sort of in my cabin. And, O'Neill's like, well, how kind of sort of? And he goes, well, completely kind of sort of. And he's like, well, because someone kind of sort of tried to kill her. And O'Neill's like, how kind of sort of? So the mom tries to take a shower, but apparently it's a sonic shower or an ion shower. But thankfully Henderson is here to save the day, and will show her how to actually take a true water shower. Sorry, I tried to mute that, but I missed it by just a millimeter. And I mean, interestingly enough, waterboard sub is pretty routinely rationed. I mean, it gets recycled for the most part, but it's one of the things where you turn it on, you get wet, you turn it off, lather up, turn it on, rinse off, and you're done. Like that's a Navy shower. So you definitely would need it rationed, even if you were aboard a luxury liner sub like the USS SeaQuest.
And apparently she was having some kind of flashback in the showers, and now she's running through the corridors in the bathroom.
And she's trying to desperately remember this memory fragment. They had just gotten done with a physics final. They'd been studying for 2 weeks straight. They brought a bottle of some sort of alcohol. They're at a river, and it's gone. Her and her friend Anita.
And this is, of course, the perfect time for Commander Ford to walk by.
And he points out that, typically speaking, non-coms, even when they're dry, aren't allowed in Commander's quarters. And he says, well, this isn't a non-com, this is my mom. And then she collapses. And so here Jim is explaining to Captain Pritchard that his mom picked up some virus in a river, and it was completely incurable, so she got frozen. And she apparently remembers something, and this must be why she's being targeted. And Thomas is saying that Tampa won 27 to 8,999. They scored 7 baskets and 1 home run. And apparently this is true, though. As Thomas is right, I don't know sports for anything. And now he's claiming that Navy submarines are in the Air Force. For the love of goodness. And Belana Troy wants to know when the last time Jim had a meal was. And he gives a quip, what, you read stomachs now too? And she says, you're not going to be good to anyone at this rate. Go eat a meal. And hey, Robert, how are you doing tonight? And B'Elanna makes a navel-gazing question of, she wonders if the mom was always this strong, or if somewhere in that deep sleep does the soul march on. Which I'd guess no.
I don't think so.
Thomas Potts is asking me.
Yeah,
yes. How many Stanley Cups have the Dallas Cowboys won? 0. However, I do know that they've won at least 3 Super Bowls back to back to back in 90, 91, and 92, I do believe. I don't know if they won any before that, but I at least remember they won those 3. And
Though Darwin's showing off for these apparently civilian researchers who are on board.
Lewis is curious if, he says Dr. Hopkins has this reactor, the Delphi reactor, any chance it's going to come back up? I have a friend who really is interested in it. And Dr. Hopkins says, well, yeah, sure, it's in service again. Tell your friend to reapply. And Lewis goes, that's impossible. The conductor can't be back in service. It never came online. And of course, Darwin, being the psychic precog that he is, points out that the man is lying. He's only here because he wants to hurt. And we see he is injecting some sort of yellow chemical into the mom's IV bag, pulls out a gun and starts shooting at Piccolo and what is his name? Not O'Neill. Ortiz, yes, that's it. And Thomas Potts is saying that I'm wrong about the Cowboys? Hold on. Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl wins. They won in 93 versus the Buffalo Bills, yeah.
Meanwhile, our assassin here is taking Lewis hostage, but they've run across Dagwood.
Dagwood is the best. He's like, what are you doing to Lewis? And the guy says, shut up, you freak. And the guy says, I'm not a freak, I'm a prototype. And he headbutts the guy in the chest and then just throws him up out into the main area. And he comes up the ladder and he looks real concerned. He says, did I hit anybody? And let's see. Where? Okay, the Cowboys won in 93, 94, and 96. I was pretty close for the 3 in the 90s. But apparently they have won 8. No, they played in 8 Super Bowls, but won 5 times. Okay.
So you were pretty much completely wrong.
But somewhat right. They won 3 in the 90s.
Yes, but you said the wrong 90s. So
I did say the wrong 90s.
That's a 0.
I said one of the right 90s. I said 93. So that's a 33.
I thought you said 90, 91, and 92.
Well, I think we should trust your memory over mine. I've been proven to be quite inaccurate. So meanwhile, in SeaQuest, they're pointing out that the guy they thought was Dr. H. Hopkins, was apparently not Dr. Hopkins at all. He had his DNA rewritten with an illegal technique, outlawed. And he's also apparently resilient to mind probes, and he's demanding that, they give him his civil rights, because even though he's an attempted murderer, premeditated, he still has civil rights, and they can't break them, which he's right.
That's strange to somebody in Kuroga, but yeah, the civil rights are a thing.
Yeah.
Until proven guilty and all that.
Even if you catch the guy red-handed, he still has rights. And hey, Wesley Crusher, how you doing? He says, greeting nerds, merds, and dolphins. So they're concerned, or they're talking about the fact that as you come out of cryosleep, your long-term memories slowly start to come back, and they should be back in a couple weeks, but the mom doesn't have a couple weeks. She's going to die in a couple days, tops. So they are doing this procedure to have the doctor do a guided mind probe, basically, while at the same time, Lewis is going to monitor it and bring up a very, very low quality kind of representation of what's going on. And there's some guy.
Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying, welcome, Poe. Glad you could join us.
Yeah, hey, Poe. So she's remembering some guy who joined them there. Everyone's drinking, having a good time. But apparently the guy had her drink too much or something. Like she got passed out drunk. And the son, Jim there, he's looking around with a flashlight. And they find the girl has drowned face down in the river. And the mom is freaking out, saying, "Don't look at him, don't look at him, don't look in the eyes." And she remembers that this guy, whoever he was, killed her friend. And this is the best quality picture they have. This, like, 8x8 kind of diagram. Maybe 32 by 32 squares. 64 pixels is all they got to identify this guy. And the Admiral is telling them that they basically need to stand down, that this is a civil matter. And he's not entirely wrong. The military doesn't get to oversee police matters.
Well, that is true until somebody came on the ship and tried to kill her.
That's also true.
Fair as well.
Yeah. And Thomas is saying, "Hi to Wesley. It was fun crashing your tiny, tiny ship in Space Engineers." Whoops. And Thomas wants to know which team in Dallas is NHL and NBA. Yeah, I do know the Dallas Stars and the Dallas Mavericks, yes. And the Dallas Cowboys. And the Texas Rangers in Arlington. Oh, true. I didn't answer the question. The Stars are NHL. The Mavericks are NBA. The Texas Rangers are the major leagues for baseball. We have I think it's the Rough Riders out in Frisco, who is a minor leagues. Is it Rough Riders? Is Frisco minor leagues for baseball, or is the Rough Riders football? Oh, now Commodore is just being cruel. Which is the Tampa Bay team I like? The Lightning, the Bucks, the Devil Rays, or the Vipers? It is the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. So the mom is being transferred to a secure facility so she won't be able to be targeted by whoever's trying to assassinate her. And Lewis is doing his best to run an algorithm to try and
enhance.
Yeah, zoom and enhance. It's not working. And he's like, "Do you mind getting rid of this hot dog?" And Piccolo's like, "No, it's for you." Yeah, he took a big bite out of it first. And Piccolo is pointing out the irony of, well, come on, it turned out he was hitting on his mom all evening, and Lewis goes, "Oh, that's rich coming from you, the guy who also hit on his mom in a club." And Piccolo's like, "Well, you hit on her first." And Commodore Ty is saying, "No, it's not the Devil Rays. Lightning would be my second guess." And Piccolo is saying that this whole cryogenics thing is messing with fate. You can't avoid it. And he points out the first guy who ever was de-thawed from one of these cryogenic chambers. He was walking along, and then a safe just fell at him from the sky. And Lewis is like, "What are you talking about? He fell off a building." And Piccolo says, "Well, fate is fate. You shouldn't tempt it." Thomas is saying that NHL is Lightning, MLB is the Devil Rays, although Thomas is correcting that they are just the Rays now, because why not change team names? The NFL are the Bucks. Is it short for Buccaneers, I'm assuming?
Yes.
And XFL is Vipers. Oh, I did. Commodore Ty was saying what each team was. Not Thomas, sorry. Thomas was face palming, which you can just keep doing it the whole evening, Thomas. I'll be here for a while yet.
Yeah, Matthew's stream was just one entire facepalm the whole time.
You need one of those infinity mirrors where the image just keeps bouncing back and forth forever of just infinite face palming. And Ortiz he's having a moment with Jim here, pointing out that, you know, his aunt is also in cryo, and it's like one long wake. It's just like forever they're in a state of quasi death. And he says, "Well, I gotta go, but you get some sleep." And Dagwood goes, "Well, why does everyone keep telling you what to do?" And he goes, "Well, they're trying to let me know that they care, and they're just trying to be respectful." And Dagwood goes, "Oh, well, in that case, you get a lot of really, really good sleep. Darn it." And then he walks off, and Jim's like, "Dagwood, the flowers?" And so he leaves the flowers behind, and Lewis, he begrudgingly grabs the hot dog that Piccolo brought him. He's like, "No, I'm not doing this." And Lewis gets one more idea for maybe some way where he can really enhance this image, maybe just a tiny, tiny bit. And it looks like maybe it's going to work. And I was wrong. That's more like maybe 100 by 100 pixels.
It's good enough for Lewis, though.
Oh, yeah. And apparently it's good enough for everyone. It really comes out clear that this is General Thomas. And Bridger's so upset he forgets Lewis's name and calls him Lucas for some reason. But he says, "Lucas, secure this screen."
Well, it's quite a shocking revelation.
And he calls up Jim. He says, "Where's your mom?" He goes, "Well, she's asleep." And he comes into her room and she's missing, but he hears a helicopter outside. And it's the Admiral there. And he's with the cryogenics guy. The two of them are somehow together trying to keep her from remembering things. And Thomas Potts is saying, for 500 points, this Philadelphia hockey team Thomas hates more than anything else besides himself. The Philadelphia Canucks? I don't know, man. Pirates? It's the Philadelphia Pirates?
No, just stop.
The Pirates are a team of some sort.
By the way, welcome, Mr. Miles. Yes, Rasputin is back.
And, you know, the Admiral gets this close to me sympathizing with him. He's having this moral dilemma. He's like, I should have just called the cops. And it turns out the reason he didn't is because at the time his dad had dreams of the White House. He was a spoiled, blue-blooded, political noble. And he's lived with guilt about the fact that they were too drunk, and his carelessness ended up getting someone dead. And he's trying to say that he did what he could and paved the way for her son. But the guy's pointing out, like, don't take credit for Brody. Brody did it for himself. But apparently it was this cryogenics guy. He gave her some eye drops that came laced with the virus. So he specifically gave her the virus to either kill her or get her frozen. Commodore is saying, "Oh my goodness, Philadelphia Pirates, come on, Matt." But Brody somehow apparently, somehow he got clipped to the bottom of this helicopter.
This guy doesn't play.
He really doesn't. And you know, they did point out in the past, like the first episode of this season, they talked about how Brody was the first one on this beach. He has extensive covert ops experience. This isn't outside his wheelhouse, but my incredulousness is the fact that he knew this helicopter was one to attach himself to come into the Admiral's private residence.
Well, I guess when he saw the helicopter leaving the hospital, that was a good clue.
Commodore Ty wants to know, why would an American team call themselves the Canucks? That's what we call Canadians. I know. Why do we call ourselves the Redskins? I mean, or at least used to call ourselves the Redskins. People come up with all sorts of crazy names. I mean, we call ourselves the Eagles, but you don't see any of them with wings. And Commodore Ty is saying the Vancouver Canucks is in the NHL. Really? NHL? I didn't realize that the NHL spanned across Canada. Like, I thought that was a American-only league. Much like the MLB.
Did you just say the MLB is an American-only league?
Please tell me it is.
Nope.
What? Are there Canadians in the MLB also?
Yes, there are.
Really?
You ever heard of the Toronto Blue Jays?
Huh.
Guess not.
No, I wasn't. What about football? Next, you're going to be telling me that the NFL has Canadians in it.
Well, no teams anyway.
Yeah, I'm really not a sports guy. I spend my free time wondering what sort of mathematical formulas I should use for calculating distance. I mean...
It's a valid point.
So Brody, he pulls out a microchip and all the lights turn off. Which, I mean, considering how everything is becoming like Internet of Things, where your phone can control all of your lights, in the far-off future of 2019, maybe a single microchip would be controlling all the lights in the house. And Mr. Miles is saying that math is a form of witchcraft. So the Admiral had me close to being sympathetic for him right up until this moment. He sneaks into the mom's room with a gun, and even though he's felt conflicted his whole life, it's clearly not enough to actually do the right thing at this point. If he had just surrendered here at any point during any of this, I would have been like, you know what, he was young, he made a mistake, lies beget lies beget lies. But no, he's just not a good guy. He's just a scumbucket who gave up country secrets so that he could, you know, basically be in luxury when he was a POW.
Fortunately, Ford shows up at that point with a security team from SeaQuest to prevent the general from escaping.
Thomas Potts is saying, here are my choices for Philadelphia, the team he hates. And if I pick your team, I'm going to be mad. The Rangers, the Capitals, Metropolitans, the Penguins, the Flyers, the Seahawks, or the Patriots. Okay, I know I've heard you talk about the Penguins a lot. I don't think that's the name of the team you hate. The Philadelphia Patriots sound right. Although there are the New England Patriots, and that's a football team. Seahawks, final answer. No, that would be Seattle, the Seattle Seahawks. Darn it. I got nothing. The Patriots,
True
fine.
words have never been spoken.
The Philadelphia Patriots Why not?
Philadelphia Patriots. Okay.
Maybe there's an NHL team and a football team named the Patriots. So the Admiral runs off to the boat with the mom, and he turns the light on onto the Admiral. You know, one of those tactical lights attached to the bottom of his rifle. And the Admiral is blaming the suit guy. He says it was Jonathan, the cryogenics guy. He's the one who did all this. And Brody is remembering shining a flashlight on the Admiral's face. And he's saying, I'm not going to be bossed around like some trapped animal. I'm your commanding officer. Put the gun down. And Brody starts to put the gun down. And the Admiral pulls his gun, points it at Brody. But just then, Piccolo, I almost thought it would be Darwin, but no, Piccolo pops out of the water and takes down the Admiral. And that's when everyone else shows up, and Ford comes to the front of the boat, and he just does like this deep squat right at the front of the boat. And Robert Rose Jr. is saying that they said McCain did the same thing when he was a POW during Vietnam. I don't know about that. I'd have to see proof. Because I know a lot of people say a lot of things about people they don't like.
By the way, Thomas, if Andy Drucker did a Sports Jeopardy when Matthew was contestant, he would set a record for a new negative score.
I really would. But you didn't tell me the answer, Thomas. Which one was it? But Brody has convinced his mom to go back into cryogenics. He says, I know you don't want to, but apparently they're further along with the research process. They think there's going to be a cure for this within Brody's lifetime. The mom is going to go back under so that she gets to at least spend some time with Brody. And she is so proud of the man that he became. Mr. Miles saying you need a Goku to stop a Piccolo. Exactly. Or Frieza. Freezer. Tom's is saying AT isn't good with sports. He thought batting 300 was a bad thing. Okay, see, I at least get that 300 is an amazing thing. That's where you hit at least, not at least, that's where you hit 1 out of 3 times and get to base. But see, that's less of a baseball thing and more of a math thing. So I'm like, oh, well, statistically speaking, that's a good number. And so he leaves a yellow rose on his mom's cryopod. Miles is saying, or Nappa could stop Piccolo, or Vegeta. Piccolo kind of sucks now. He did get a little nerfed, yeah.
Well, that was a fascinating episode of Matthew Doesn't Know Sports.
And Thomas still hasn't told me the answer for his least favorite Philadelphia team. NHL.
You to figure it out.
Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Flyers? Was that one of the options you gave me? Yes, it was.
The Flyers
okay.
was one of them, yes.
The Philadelphia Flyers. There we go. And you know, that was one of the bad things they did in Dragon Ball Z, Mr. Miles. Dragon Ball was real interesting in that it had an array of characters. Goku, he had lots of equals. Chaozu was a pushover the whole time. The guy with 3 eyes, Tien. Wow, everyone's... I know I'm bad with names, but usually not this bad when it comes to Dragon Ball. But Tien, Krillin, Yamcha, all of them were equals with Goku, and then Dragon Ball Z came along, and it's like no one was really an equal with Goku. Like, not even close. Mr. Mollis says, oops, I said a bad word. I forgot how Matthew is uber Christian. Yeah, I choose not to swear. But I don't care. I'm not going to care if you do. I just edited it, that's all. Yes, darn Piccolo and D. Gosh darn it. Vegeta mostly kept up, sorta, yeah.
Operation Confuse Matthew was a success as always.
It's hard. I was saying it's not a hard task. That's a pretty easy goal to hit. Well, how did you enjoy today's episode, John?
I liked it. Thought it was interesting. The first part was a little bit weird when you realize that that's actually his mother.
It was. You know, I kind of wonder about production timing again, because just a couple weeks ago we had the Piccolo's Mom is Young episode. And I kind of think maybe if they'd spaced those two events out a little bit, it would have played a little better. Like, this was more of a, oh, hey, remember last season when the same kind of thing happened? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But instead, I don't know, it felt like it was a little too close. But even with that, it was a fresh take on it. So it wasn't just, oh, look, here's two young mom episodes. It was like, oh, hey, look, this is focusing on a mom who is killing herself through drugs because she thinks it makes her look good. Versus here's a mom who was given drugs that would kill her and had to go into cryo sleep to live.
Yeah, they raised some interesting issues, I thought, with the use of cryogenics. Basically, what does it do to you? What does it do to everybody else who's still on the outside?
Yeah, I mean, I talked over it kind of at the time, but Ortiz was making a lot of interesting comments about how his whole family lived in a state of perpetual, like, mourning over the aunt who wasn't dead, but was so far out of their lives because she was in cryo that it was as if she was dead. So there's like this hope you held on to that maybe someday your family member would be able to come out because a cure had been found. But at the same time, you had no guarantee. It could be 50, 100 years. Everyone you knew could be dead. So it's like you just have to kind of treat her as if she was dead. Tom's saying if he had a terminal illness, he wouldn't freeze himself. He'd ask to be put down. I don't like either of those options, Thomas. See, I've never been obviously in the position where I've had a terminal illness. So until I personally come onto it, I'm not going to judge too hard anyone's take on it. But at the same time, I'd like to think that I would go the same way my dad did. When he found out he had myeloma, multiple myeloma, which is bone cancer, which has no cure. There are things that you can do to kind of hopefully get into remission. You can use your own stem cells, get yourself mostly dead, and use your own stem cells to kind of rebuild your body back up or your bone marrow back up. But it's one of those procedures where you either go into remission for many years or you die. And somehow my dad did neither. And the doctor was really confounded by it. And he's like, well, sorry, I'll just try to die next time if this bothers you that much. But like the first thing he did when he found out about this is he started a blog, because this was before, video blogs really came off. And honestly, even if there were video blogs, I don't think my dad could handle a video blog. He was so old school. But he started a blog and he called it God Put the My in Myeloma, recognizing that God was sovereign over his own health. And I'd like to think that I would, if I encountered a terminal illness like this, I would have the same dignity where I wouldn't want to be euthanized, because I feel like there'd still be so much work to do. And until I am dead, I don't want to be out of the game. Until I am in a box, I want to spend every day spreading the gospel, talking about how, yeah, we're sinners, but God knew that this was going to happen. He, from the beginning, from before the foundations of the earth, the Bible says he planned to send his son to die for us, to be the substitution so that we could be legally found not guilty, even though we had done the crime. So I hope I'd go there. But like I said, until I personally encounter the situation where, they're saying recant or die, or you have cancer, Mr. Bennett, I'm not going to hold anyone in contempt for their own personal convictions. Like that really is kind of the test of a man. How do you respond to a life and death situation? Which I was just watching on Deep Space Nine a couple months ago, I guess now, the episode where Jake was doing the interview with Bashir, and they got sidetracked off the planet where the Klingons were attacking. And, a guy comes in who shot himself in his own foot to be taken off the front lines. And Jake at first was extremely critical of the guy. And then Jake was trying to get a portable generator with Bashir, and the shelling started to happen, and he got scared and ran away like a coward. And, eventually he just poured out his soul in writing about how he really was hoping he would have been brave, but it turns out he was a coward. And later on in the episode, he blindly fires into the roof to cause the cave to collapse. And he's like, both times I was a coward. It's just one time being a coward meant I shot a gun, and another time it meant I ran like a dog. And the dad's like, a lot of soldiers are going to see themselves in this story. And it's one of those things, like, until you are on the front line and you're in that situation, it's easy to say you'd stand up and fire, but what would you actually do in that situation? I don't know.
By the way, Thomas, no, we don't want you to suffer, but we want you to be around as well.
Yes, exactly. And honestly, one of the things I do believe is, as you get older and you lose the ability to take care of yourselves, it is part of God's providential plan not for you to suffer, but for those who care about you, your family members, to step up and take care of you. And I think that a lot of people actually miss out on that ministry, either because, there was a time when assisted suicide was kind of looked on favorably. People might remember Dr. Kevorkian and his trial. I don't mean to go down too far of a rabbit hole with this, but no, I don't want you to suffer. I just don't want you gone either. Springtime is saying, just say you're going to go out in a blaze of glory riding a tornado. That would certainly, that's certainly the fantasy that, you go out in a blaze of glory, someone's attacking your hometown. You go out guns a-blazing, enemies lying at your feet for miles around. And with your dying breath, you save the village. That's the power fantasy, I know, but wow. I wouldn't go that far. But I do hope that I go out at least with dignity. Mr. Miles is saying that he's got to head to the store. I'll have to somehow survive without his wise guy remarks. We'll try. We'll try. But then he said, what I said made him stop and turn. Jesus being a scapegoat. I have a problem with that. I would never be comfortable with anyone else suffering for me. Well, comfortable or not, he did. The Bible says he drained to the last drop the cup of wrath that God had in store. He did it because of his great love for you. So your desire for it is somewhat inconsequential because God did it.
Thomas made a couple of statements here at the end, and I agree with one of them. The other one, I'm not so sure about.
But which one is it? No one can tell. Does John agree that superheroes should nuke cities, or that Bajor had no government in hiding? Life is a mystery.
Uh-huh.
But back to the episode. Was there any parts of this week's episode that you just actively disliked, that you felt made no sense whatsoever?
Not that come to mind, no. Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, it was a little creepy when Brody went back out looking for that lady before it turned out that it was his mom.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not sure if it was it really a romantic thing, or is he just, like you said, he couldn't stop thinking about it for some reason and he had to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, seeing it the second time, there are little things like the mom or Brody saying how he's been talking about himself all evening, and the mom goes, well, I've been asking. And it's like, well, now that you know that it's his mom, that statement makes a lot of sense. She wants to know what's happened in his life. And yeah, Brody not being able to get her out of his mind would make sense, and that some part of him recognized his mom and was just like kind of nagging the back of his mind, like, hey, you need to pay attention. For me, the only nitpick, which again, I only had a nitpick, was Brody coming in on the helicopter. Which it was one of those things where they shot it in such a manner that you're almost left to believe that as the helicopter was taking off from the hospital, Brody managed to get to it and put a carabiner on it and ride the bottom of the helicopter all the way there, which of course makes no sense. So it has to be.
That's awesome.
It was awesome, but it had to be that once he found out it was the Admiral, because between that event, between his mom being taken off at just before his mom was kidnapped at the hospital, Bridger called to let him know it was the Admiral. So clearly he found another helicopter that was going to the Admiral's house and hitched a ride on the bottom to it, which is pretty hardcore awesome. Yeah. Thomas is saying that this episode was forgettable for me every time he's seen it. I think the only thing that really worked against this episode was simply its proximity to the other mom episode. Like, had they been spaced out more, I feel like it would have had more of a punch to it. Because it does would have
been better.
Yeah, and like you're saying, John, it does bring up some interesting questions about cryogenics. Because back in the 90s, we thought for sure we'd have cryogenics by now. It featured a lot. In fact, there was the movie Forever Young, which had Mel Gibson, I want to say, as the main lead, and I forget who was co-starring it, who the lead female star was. But it's Mel Gibson ended up freezing himself for some reason, and as he came out, he was trying to readjust the world in the future, which was our present, so like something in the 90s at the time. And then, things start, I don't want to ruin it if you haven't seen it. But they talked about that. Then you had, was Encino Man? Was that a cryogenics one, or was that
Encino Man? I don't remember the details of that one.
I don't remember if that was cryogenics or if that was like caveman frozen in ice one.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
And yeah, Thomas, Fry.
Probably was in one of those tubes.
Which Fry kind of looked like the same tube from this episode. Okay, during the first ice age, a caveman, Brendan Fraser, attempts to make a fire, and a cave-in happens, buries both of them. They're frozen. So there are a lot of cryogenics stuff in the 90s. Is really just what we're getting at here. Which is why this episode would have made a lot of sense to air in the 90s. And you know what? TNG had the end of season 1 episode where you had the 3 people who woke up from being frozen in cryotubes. The rich white guy, the country singer, and the random lady. And then, I mean, it was in the 90s. I guess that would have been like 87, but still it was kind of the same mindset going on. And of course you had TOS Botany Bay episode, or Space Seed, which clearly was in the 90s, but it really featured a lot in the 90s when I'm jumping around here. Demolition Man, thank you, Trek Reviewer, which hello and welcome. So I think I think it would have been better spaced out, and some of the messaging, some of the moral quandaries of the episode definitely are lost, and that cryogenics isn't something that's really kind of a hot topic anymore. No one really thinks much about cryogenics.
One thing that
Thomas's comments, 1987 is just like 1990s. Yeah, it was. Plus or minus a decade.
Yeah. One thing I liked is that this general character wasn't just some new person they made up for the episode, that he had appeared several times before. Even though, yeah, he was a jerk, still, I think it was good that he was used an established character. So this is just one-off person.
Well, and not only was he established, but he was established to be a jerk who skirted the laws and who felt the rules were for thine, not me. And he was a scumbag. Like, he was true to his character. Like, it would have been really weird if they had taken Admiral Noyce and had him be this guy where in his youth he made this choice. It would have been
that's
pretty.
What they would do if the episode.
We're on, John.
If the episode is made today, that's what they would do.
Oh yeah, or it would have been Bridger or something.
Yeah.
And then his second in command, Henderson, would have taken over. The new lady ensign.
Mm-hmm.
How many years are in a decade? 10. But I stand that 1987 is plus or minus a decade from 1990s. Because it's the previous decade, you know? The 90s, the 80s, I'm close within a decade. And most of the cryogenic stuff, I feel like, happened like 95, like earlier than 95. I might / probably am completely wrong about that. But I feel like that was the range in which cryogenics really featured heavily. Would you consider Jurassic Park to be somewhat cryogenic in nature?
I don't think that's really the same thing. Because it's not like they were taking dinosaurs that lived in the past and bringing them back to life. I mean, it's not the same animals. And in fact, they even made the point that if they have to splice in other DNA, so it's not entirely accurate to the way that used to be.
Yeah. Kind of variations on a theme, and yet very, very different. The closest they get to cryogenics was Nedry's little shaving cream thing where it popped open and he put the little DNA samples in them. Which made me laugh every time when he did the shaving cream and, wiped it off on the guy's what looked like pumpkin pie, like it was a dollop of Cool Whip. And Thomas Potts is saying no. I'm not sure if he's saying no to Jurassic Park being cryogenics or no to 1987 to 1990s being plus or minus a decade. I'm going to guess no to everything. And I'm going to guess that I should just call him right on this.
Like everything is a safe assumption.
Yeah. Doppelgangers, superheroes, my stance on Kira Nerys, cryogenics. I mean, there's a pretty extensive list on things that I'm pretty well documented on being wrong on that I should just I should make a video about all the things I've been proven wrong about or something. It'd be a long video.
Very long.
Oh, that's pretty cool, Thomas. An online store sells replica of that can for a few $100s. The cryogenics one.
Nice.
Wow, a few hundred. That seems overpriced.
I'm not going to be buying it anytime soon.
I mean, I was a fan of Jurassic Park, but I don't think I'm that big of a fan. Well, John, final thoughts for this week's episode.
As always, it's great to see Darwin again, predicting who was good and who was bad, even though he gave Piccolo a chance to save the day at the end this time.
He was truly magnanimous. Just the best. I thought it was a fun episode. I certainly understand why it comes off as forgettable. Like I said, I would like to see some more space in it. But overall, fun episode. Not gonna complain. Maybe had a bit of filler at a couple times, but I don't know. Like the pacing overall, from I guess that is the one thing. We have to get back to the ship, and having him immediately turn around and go back to find his mom. I would have called that needless filler. Like I would have preferred they found a way to be a little tighter in the pacing, but more nitpicks, 100% more nitpicks, not actually something I can say destroyed the episode. So great episode, and I look forward to next week for whatever episode that is. Episode 10 of season 2, which I really should just pull this up so that I'm not at the end of each week being like, we're going to watch another episode. Special Delivery is going to be next week. So we look forward to it. We will be here at the same time of 9:30, no matter what time I incorrectly put on the YouTube schedule. It will be 9:30 U.S. Central Time. Thomas is plus or minus a decade. Thomas is saying, what about Echo, and when is Babylon 5? Babylon 5 is still going to be a couple months away whenever we finish SeaQuest. And Echo, man, hopefully I can finish up my bike project so in the evenings I can have time to do some game stuff. Because the evenings is the only time I get to work on this. So I do have that set aside to actually work on my code. So until then, guys, I look forward to next week when we will see you again for whatever I just said it was. Special Delivery. That's right.
Special Delivery.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. And be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.